the two meetings, so we started at 4.
So we're going to talk about a paper by Benny called The Failure of a Nazi Killer Amendment. And before we start, let's play a game. So in this game we have 3 characters. We have 2 situations. First, we have the status quo, which is going for another election. This is going to be our 3rd election here in Israel. We hope that it will be the last one. And then we have proposition P, which is to make an agreement with Bibi to leave politics without being charged. So he's going to sign the document, and he's going to be out of the game, but he's not going to go to jail. And so we have 3 voters, and each of these voters has a preference, so relation. So Bibi, he prefers the status quo because he thinks he's going to win the elections. If he goes through, then he likes P. We have Deli, which prefers the proposition P because he knows that he's going to be accused maybe sometime in the future, and he wants to set that as an example that such an agreement can be made. And we have the 3rd player, Gantz, which is the opponent of Bibi. He really prefers Bibi out of politics, so he prefers P to S. So who wants to be Derry? Hillel? Okay. Who wants to be Gantz? Okay, so we have Tuval and Hillel presenting Derry and Gantz. I'm going to be Bibi. And let's vote sincerely, okay? Voting sincerely just means that you vote for the outcome you prefer above all others. You don't try to manipulate and vote for something you don't really like. So we're going to vote for proposition P. So whoever wants P to happen, please vote. Okay, so we have 2 votes out of 3. We are the 3 players. And P wins here, and they sign an agreement with Bibi, and he's out of politics. But Bibi is not so dumb, he's very smart actually. He knows how to manipulate. And so he offers a 3rd option. This option is very extreme. He says, okay, you want to sign an agreement? Charge me. Let's go to court. So they're going to charge Bibi, leaving him out of politics and probably in jail. This is very extreme. Of course, Bibi doesn't want this option. He prefers the status quo than a proposition, and lastly, he wants that to happen. Derry, though, he prefers the 1st agreement, then the status quo, and then he wants Bibi out of politics because he thinks that Bibi can help him in the future. Gantz really hates Bibi, so he prefers him in jail above all others. Now again, we vote sincerely. Please vote for P if you want P to go through. So who votes for P? Only Hillel, which represents here Derry. So P doesn't go through. Let's vote for A. Only Kaval votes. And so we stay with the status quo. So this simple manipulation of offering a 3rd option, which is extreme compared to the 2nd option and the status quo, is called the killer amendment. So what makes an amendment a killer? The purpose of such an amendment is to kill a bill that would otherwise pass. In our example, P is a bill that would otherwise pass, and the member proposing the amendment would not vote in favor of the outcome that he proposed. Here, Bibi will never vote for A. He really doesn't want it to happen until he proposes it. That makes it a killer amendment. Let's talk a bit about notation. Not a lot of notation in this paper. Hope gladly. So we call A killer amendment if it's proposed by a voter that values less than the other. Alternative, okay. Its only purpose is to increase the chances that a more preferred alternative would be chosen. This one is P. And if the outcome for the vote changes, we call the killer amendment A a successful killer amendment. So what we're going to do in the first part, we're going to talk about in which situations such an amendment can be a killer. We're going to identify most of them under complete, incomplete information, different ways of voting procedures. And then we're going to talk about a case study about such an amendment that was proposed in the Reichstag. So we ordered alternatives from left to right, and this is not a preference relations, but actually like the one-dimensional way we think about this. So S would be, let's say, left wing, then P is moderate, and A is extreme to that, it's right wing. And we can also talk about the opposite order, which is APS, but we don't care about other orders, because we're going to put our theory on this structure. So the agenda is the order in which alternatives are put to vote. So, for example, in our example, the agenda was first P and then A. That was the agenda. And we have two main assumptions, which are single peak preferences. We talked about this last week. And this, I think, regards wealth, as you said, ocean. So the number of options. We allow every feasible preference profile according to the order has a high priority, strictly positive probability. So we allow any profile of preferences, right? Yeah, as long as they're single peak. So we're going to talk about two procedures, two ways to vote. One is called the amendment procedures. So we take two options, we vote between those two options. Whoever wins, we vote between that option and the third option we didn't vote for, and then we choose the one that gets the most votes. It's called an amendment procedures. In this way, all motions are put to vote at least once, and this is what's used in the Anglo-Saxon world. The second,
by the way, it was divided by Jeremy Bentham. So it's not that it just emerged out of outer space. English Parliament, the oldest parliament, of course, in the world, they had to think early about how to do this. And Bentham came with the amendment procedure to do it like a tennis tournament.
Okay, thank you. So the second procedure is called the successive procedure. Here motions are voted one by one. So we vote for P, yes or no. Yes, P, if P gets a majority, we stay with P. If not, we vote for the second option. If it doesn't get voted, we stay with the status quo. This is used by the Knesset here in Israel, also used by the Reichstag, okay? And they also had a very long tradition of sorting the agenda in such a way that the more extreme motion is put to vote first. So in our case, if we have SPA and A is a killer amendment, they first vote for A, then they vote for P, then they vote for S, which is different than the procedure that I presented, if you remember. We're going to talk about this in a minute. So let's talk about sophisticated voting under complete information. So what is a sophisticated voter? It's a voter that doesn't have to be sincere. He doesn't have to vote for his best option. He can be strategic in some way. And we talk about the sequential procedure, so like presented. Okay, so if a simple majority is used at each stage, again, we have complete information. The Condorcet winner will be selected by sophisticated voters. And because we can solve this in backward deduction, the equilibrium theory cannot differentiate among different voting procedures or agendas. It doesn't matter if you vote this way or another. It doesn't matter which order we take the votes, because everybody knows all the information. The same Condorcet winner will be chosen.
So this is clear, right? You have a tree. On complete information, you know everything. So you can think, okay, if we get to that last point among two, what will happen? I know who is in favor, who is against. I know what will happen. I go back, right? So everything I can always think through the whole tree, okay? So there is no way that you can say winner is eliminated. Everything is foreseen, you will never lose against them.
But if all others are sophisticated voters as well, you need to know what they will do in
Yeah,
terms of
complete information. They're sophisticated. They all do the same. Right?
So in this formulation, we cannot explain why the Reichstag uses the most extreme option first agenda.
And so also maybe what happens if there is no Condorcet winner? If there is no Condorcet winner, we have a Condorcet cycle, but the same logic still applies. Okay, one, we have A, B, C, which are in the cycle like we had last time. One of them will be chosen. Okay, you cannot choose anything. Which one? This depends on the process. So with complete information, it's all But it says basically a killer amendment can never be successful on the complete information. Because, it's obvious. You see what BB, his example, tries to do, you can think it through. So, if you're not full before you introduce this, you cannot be full because you see it through. And so the puzzle is why we still see such options.
Okay, so this was sophisticated voting. Let's talk about sincere voting. So in this way, we don't allow people to vote strategically. They have to vote for the outcome they prefer above all others. And we're talking about the amendment procedure. So we have two votes taking one against the other. So think about adding a third option A, trying to make it a killer amendment. We can either have a majority of agents that want this extreme option, A, and then it will win, and then therefore it will not be a successful killer amendment. Or no some majority exists, A will lose to P, still not a successful killer amendment. So we have the first, I don't think it's even a proposition in the paper, saying that the amendment procedure with single P preferences, the killer amendment cannot be successful. Okay, and that happens even if voting is sincere. So even if people vote for the most preferred option.
So the first alternative is a majority. If you have a majority with picks on A, it's not a killer, right? It's a good thing, right? Right. If you really introduce an option that everyone supports, that's a good thing. So it's not so it may happen that that thing is elected, but we won't call this a killer.
Good for society, not for the.
It's in good faith. It's not introduced to kill something. It's introduced because we think it's better. But so in this sense,
you cannot serve the guy who wants it to use as a killer amendment. So here we see the formulation of the game we played earlier. We have 3 voters. This is Bibi, Derry, and Gantz in our game. And this is the first vote we take, and this is the second vote we took. And you can see that here the killer amendment was successful.
So just a second so under sophisticated voting, where you always do the backward induction, foresee everything. All procedures are the same if there is a controversial choose. So there is no way of fooling the system. Now what he showed is sincere voting. You don't think it through, you look what's your best among those remaining and you vote for it. What he showed is amendment you still cannot fool anyone. But in the successive procedure, this was his first example, okay, which is here in front of you. You will also give us the, right? I will also put the slides.
Yeah.
Which I have, but your presentation also knows. So please give it to all of us. In the successive procedure, if voters are sincere, not sophisticated, they actually behave nicely, then the killer amendment can be successful. No anything, but why would I vote sincerely and not sophisticated? Well, maybe you have no choice. You're elected by the electorate to represent that position. You're accountable to it. Take a Labour member of Parliament in England who comes from a constituency that was 80% for Brexit. It's hard for him to vote against Brexit. Even if he thinks that manipulating and voting sophisticated helps, it's hard. So sincere voting has also some power. So if you think people vote sincerely, killer amendment. And again, they may have to vote sincerely because forced by the elected.
Only when it's not a single pick.
No,
those are single picks.
It's a single pick.
That's the point. Yeah? When preferences are not single pick, there is no controversial winner or all kinds of things.
So because we have
But here it's everything single pick. That's a surprising.
Well, because in the previous slide you put that a single pick.
Yeah, we soon see single picketedness. And as you can see, because the order is SPA or APS, you can see that This is single tick. Okay?
Yeah, SPA goes down. P, the best, and link left, right, lower is single tick, then APS goes up. The single tick.
Okay.
Usually the killer amendment are, people used to think that they're connected to the existence, to the non-existence of condor cell.
But it's not about
But it's not. It's really not. This is official.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that voting sincerely in this case, as the game represents, as in the game, so is voting sincere an equilibrium here? Is it the best response, or would someone counterfactual regret voting sincerely?
Regret.
People regret, right? Who would be the first, second, or third voter?
Guns.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. The third voter would regret voting sincerely. Okay, he would vote for P if he could. Sophisticatedly vote for P. Okay. So let's talk about convex agendas. So as we said in the last lecture, a convex agenda. Okay, if we have two alternatives A and C, let's say S and A in our case, and there is a third option in between. Okay, we don't want to vote first for S, then for A, then for P. We want to vote in this order or in the reverse order. So no holes in the way we vote. That's called a convex agenda. And in this case, sophisticated voting coincides with sincere voting. Okay? And the equilibrium outcome of the incomplete information game is still the Condorcet winner is being chosen, which raises the first proposition of the paper, that a kill-immersion will never be successful in equilibrium of a successive or amendment voting procedure, so the two ways we talked about, if we have a convex agenda. And the first example we showed, we didn't have a convex agenda, and even though we had complete information, this is also true for incomplete.
So this is just an application of what we saw last time. It's not something new. But if you have a convex agenda, even if there is incomplete information, sophisticated will choose the Condorcet winner always. So if A, the killer amendment, is the Condorcet, and then it's not a killer, it's good. And if it's not, it won't be chosen. So it cannot be successful. Okay, so the sophisticated voter incomplete information in the convex agenda, we never should see killer. Not observe. Because they are bound to fail.
Okay. So let's talk about probabilities and utilities. So we have a few assumptions for this exercise. Each voter has a pick on S with probability PS, pick on A with PA, and since we have single pick preferences, we allow the preferences to be either PSA with PPS probability or this way with this probability. And I don't know if you addressed the same construction of three voters when you presented this.
I don't, yeah.
But it can also be applied to three voters.
So the important thing is this agenda is not convex. Right? Now we construct something first vote for P, which is the middle, and then we leave the whole. We have the S and the A, which are the extreme. We start with the middle, we leave the extreme. This is what, if you think about it, what Theresa May did. Yeah? That's why also she did it, because if you do it like this, the probability is, you may have a chance to succeed. So what she did, think about it, she left the two extreme options. No deal, very nice deal, common market and so on. Okay, or basically no Brexit issue on the table. No deal and no Brexit are still on the table. Okay, so extreme left and extreme right. And she insisted to vote first on her deal, which is the middle between Brexit and no Brexit. Why? Because she thought those that are for Brexit would be afraid of no Brexit. Those that are no Brexit would be afraid of Brexit. And if their fear is high enough, and the probabilities and the beliefs are okay, she will get ready to accept. Which didn't have a majority. We know, didn't have a majority. But she thought by doing this exercise, making everyone afraid of the other side, she will get a majority. But the hard Brexit faction was not impressed by this exercise, and they simply didn't play game. Never vote for anything.
You usually have sort of a semi-complete information about what everyone will vote, unless they.
But she didn't. If she had, she didn't. And she tried 3 times. 3 times. One after another. Tried to convince more people. And obviously, it was very large majority the first vote, smaller majority the second, even smaller the third, but never full majority. So, yeah, I agree. It was not incomplete information about 600 members of parliament, but enough to make a difference. So that was sure. If you think about it, and this is, you can read them except for the press. This is the exercise she was trying to do. Take the middle before the extreme.
And we know of a similar case in Bentham time that was something like that.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we're going to show here that the equilibrium is actually for people to vote sincerely. So let's say the utilities, the values are 1 for the best option, 0 for the worst option, and some value v between 0 and 1 for the middle option. This is true for all 3 of the voters. And voting in the second stage sincerely is pretty obvious. Okay, you're the last way. You want to fit the outcome to your most preferred option. But what happens in the first vote in which we vote for P? So we vote yes or no. So let's say we have some voter, okay, who has a pick on S. For example, this first voter, and his vote is going to change something only if he's pivotal. So what he does, he calculates his expected utility if he votes against. So if he votes 2P, he gets V. That's obvious. If he votes against P, okay, so his expected utility will be C1, which is either, this is the chance that S would be chosen. In this case, he gets 1, and S will not be chosen. And this part, this is what I wanted to ask you. I didn't quite understand why these probabilities are those, but that is expected utility. And
So it's either a mistake or...
I think I didn't understand.
Yeah?
Bit complicated.
Where is the V?
The V is not in the equation.
Yeah, no, okay.
V is only if he gets P.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think it's correct. It's probably the probability of getting 0.8.
Yeah.
By Bayes' rule.
Yeah, Bayesian apple.
Yeah, just Bayesian dating.
Anyway, this is a number that can be calculated from probabilities. So what this agent does, he compares this value of C1 to the values of V. Whichever is greater will determine his path of action in the first vote. And we have a similar equation for a voter with a pick on A. And if V is small enough, then the equilibrium is actually to vote sincerely. This is the outcome of this exercise.
Okay, so what does it show in the exercise?
What does it want?
What does it show?
So it shows that under sophisticated voting, we don't make people act sincerely. We have incomplete information, and we have the successive procedure.
With a non-convex agenda. That's the main point. start with P
Yeah.
and
Killer amendments can be successful.
with some probability. With some probability we end up with A. Okay? So if we don't know who is for whom, this means when the agenda is not convex, killer amendment can be successful. If it's convex, never. Choosing the middle, making this exercise, if you choose the middle first, you start to make people think about the risks they are taking, and the probabilities, and the values like in this exercise. Before we never did it. And with convex agendas, we never talked about it. It's always good to get this. Here you start playing with all these numbers, and in some chance we end up with it.
So we have a similar exercise, but this time we don't talk about the successive procedure, talk about amendment procedures. And again, the proposed strategy is form an equilibrium whenever V is small enough. I think it's pretty similar.
So the non-convex agenda in the amendment procedure means that instead of looking at the first step between the two extremes, you look at the middle and the extreme.
You see P versus A and not P versus S.
Convex would mean you look first at the extremes, okay? And therefore, the next step you have one of the extreme against the status quo. Here we do extreme status quo the first, and then we have possibly in the last step two extremes against them. And that's what creates here the problem. I'm not sure you are aware of all these issues before. They're intuitive, but it shows you, how much power there is to influence the outcome by choosing the order in which things are put together.
So this table kind of summarizes what we talked about so far. So under convex agendas, no killer amendment can be successful. Doesn't matter if you have complete information, incomplete, sincerely, not sincerely, and the two procedures. Under non-convex and complete information, killer amendment can be successful only voters vote sincerely and in the successive procedure, not the amended procedure. And if we have incomplete information, which most of the time this represents the world more than complete information, of course, we have a chance to get a killer amendment in both procedures if we have a convex agenda, as shown in the previous slides. And okay, so let's talk about the case.
Can you say that sometimes that is actually taking place in election when, because you don't vote for parties from left to right or from right to left and then find the best party, but you in a way vote for all the sequence in a way. So that gives an advantage for a party that is both left and right, or is something in the middle. You can assume that it's the same idea.
But usually elections are not sequential, right? So elections.
It's like that. Because they are not sequential voting, and because they are not pairwise in a way, they don't vote. So people are voting for example, for guns, because people from the right and from the left might vote for him in the same manner because they're afraid that the more
right. So basically, what you have here in Israel is plurality voting, right? Because it's with proportional representation. So voting sincerely is not optimal. Right? Voting sincerely is not optimal. If you're on the left and you vote for the Reds, let's say you want, it's not necessarily optimal, right? Voting sincerely on the plurality is not optimal because you think, well, they have no chance. Yeah? So let's vote for Reds. And the same for small parties. Right? But that's bad. That's not a good property of election. That people that support party X, Y vote for strategic reasons for other parties. what we get, it's not a representation of. So we don't want it. That's why parliaments don't do it. President of the French Republic is sequential, but they also have plurality in the first. They choose the first two and then one. It's bad. It's bad. What happens if the extreme right participates or not? Even if they don't get elected, they can affect, in fact, the traditional two candidates, one from the middle left, one from the middle right, and you have majority either for them, then the extreme right have a very successful candidate. And now people have to think, what will happen in the second stage? Who can win against the extreme right? Or do you think that moderate right can win and moderate left not? Then I vote already now for the moderate right, although I actually am for the moderate left. So there you can see if it's that if you don't have this particular structure, everything. This is, I think this is, it distorts the democratic process. The Condorcet winner may not be, if you have a candidate, everyone agrees, the majority agrees, better than any other. He or she may not get elected.
But in election, you can't win the Condorcet winner unless you will do all the
we didn't. We didn't. I mean,
because you can't choose parties by parties and say how much you prefer the most left-wing party.
So that's why we're talking about parliaments that can do this process in a more controlled way, or committees. Yeah. But it's not clear that you cannot do something like this in
So let me start by saying that the case study this week is going to be, this day is going to be less convincing in my opinion than the last case study we had. Sorry.
Okay.
Because it's not 100%, it doesn't fit 100% to the theory, but it's very interesting. So we're going to talk about the German federal elections of 1928. These are the different parties, and we're interested in the National Socialist German Party, which is the Nazi Party. Those are the brown seats here are they're very, very small portion of the government. So they vote a vote of confidence, and let's see what they propose. So each new government must obtain an affirmative parliamentary vote of confidence or a weaker motion of tolerance. And this weaker motion of tolerance was the one chosen many years before. It was the common way to show confidence. Okay, voting full confidence was not used, was not very
It was not achievable. This was kind of probably you have to show the party, how many parties there were. And like Israel today, even worse. Yeah, very hard to form a coalition. It's exactly the same problem. We are talking about forming a coalition, very hard. So they were not able to form coalitions that got full confidence, where the parliament, the majority said yes. But they managed to get some working coalitions where the parliament said, okay, for the time being going.
It's very passive aggressive.
Huh?
It's very passive aggressive. אתה אומר, okay.
But was it a minority government or it was a...
It was, they had, it was kind of case by case. Yeah? It had, had a majority, but some parties in that voting majority were not able to bring themselves to say, we trust. Yeah? So maybe it sounds familiar. I hope that the Israeli democracy will follow a better path. But you can see signs of what can happen when it's so hard to form a coalition.
We, instead of coalition, go for another election. So we can learn from that. So July 5, 1928, there are 4 proposals being proposed. First proposal by the KDP, far left, the government does not have the confidence of the lifestyle. We're going to call this NC1. Then from the far right, we have the exact same proposals, so let me just address them as NC because they're exactly the same. And we can have our one-dimensional axis presenting the, so we have no confidence. Let's talk about the other one. We have toleration, okay? And what's going to be the third option?
Confidence.
Confidence, okay? And confidence here, okay, is going to be the killer amendment. So the Reichstag expresses its confidence in the government. This will be the killer motion that the Nazi Party suggested. So remember this. We have NC, T and C, and let's see what's
there.
there.
A small party minority. The government was social democratic, really. Ruled last few months. Nazi Party, extreme right. They said, no, we trust the government. We express full confidence. It's obvious that this was the case. I mean, potential. Yeah? Right? It's like having now let's say the Arab parties say we express full confidence in Bibi Netanyahu wanting to continue. Right? Are to believe that this is in good faith. Yeah?
So we have good conditions for a killer amendment.
That's one of the reasons that the current law in Israel, when they do non-confidence, you have to propose an alternative option, and this is in a way over beside that.
Germany learned the same thing lesson from this. Yes, after the Nazis were out of power, it was a democracy, they changed the law. So you cannot propose non-confidence without being able to propose a new government. So which would mean that the party with 10 members of parliament, the Nazi party in this case, wouldn't be able to propose this at all, without an alternative government that they could leave. That's a lesson learned. Yeah, from this.
So for the exercise, if we have this axis, we can have different agendas. So one agenda can be first vote for no confidence, then toleration and confidence. You can vote for no confidence, confidence and toleration, confidence, toleration and non-confidence, or confidence, non-confidence, and toleration. So for each one, let's see which one is convex. So this is our line. No confidence. This one is convex. So it's okay. It's proof against killer amendments. Second one is not convex because we vote for C before T. So this one is not convex. Voting for this is convex, though in the opposite ways, but it still is convex. And confidence, no confidence, is not convex, right? So if we have either A1 or A3, we are killer amendment proof, right?
By the previous theory.
By the theory. So, you know, the Germans, they have their farthest alternative first principle. So they start with confidence, which is the extreme option. But they chose A3, which is okay, and it satisfies the farthest alternative first principle. So what they do is they first vote for C. If C is voted by a majority, they choose C. If not, they have to vote for T. They get a majority, they decide T. If not, they go for non-confidence. Remember this, okay? This is just to remind you that killer amendments cannot be successful, as we have a convex level. So why did the NDCP bother to introduce a killer amendment in conjunction with a congress agenda that is immune to it? Okay, the Nazis, they're like Bibi, they know their theory.
They
Why
also
would they
proposed the
perform?
agenda. If this was the agenda is fine, respects the procedural laws, and not a problem.
Yeah, so answer it. What do you think? Why did they propose it even though they knew that the agenda is convex and might not be successful? So imagine we didn't have that option. We didn't have confidence. We just have no confidence and toleration. What's the difference when you add confidence?
You need positively to support the government. So in a way, you have to reflect your own sincere
You don't have to vote sincerely. I don't think it's...
No, you have to reflect your sincere preferences. You don't have to vote it.
Because they hoped that there were people that didn't want to vote for confidence, right?
Reverse vote for confidence.
But if it's not on the table, they don't have to do it. Now you put it on the table, they actually don't want to vote for it, but you know that this may kill the government.
Maybe it's like when they need to vote for a C or T, they actually have an opportunity to say we have no confidence in you, but okay, we tolerate you.
Great.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the point. So if the first vote for C didn't get a majority, this would be a signal that they don't have confidence in the government because they voted for confidence and it wasn't chosen. So that would cause an immediate fall of the government, and which would send a signal.
So this was an ambiguity in the law. Yeah? You know, as we know, law has some ambiguities. The minister cannot be named under accusation as a prime minister, but it's not written. Right? Prime minister is not written, so it was the same here. It was not in the law what happens if a motion of confidence is actually rejected. What does it mean? This was somehow not explained by the law. If it would mean nothing, okay, then we go on TMC, then this cannot be successful. Since there was uncertainty what it actually means, since there were people in the college that didn't want to vote for C, there's a possibility that not C means government is gone. That's what they tried. It's a little bit more, so you said when you say it doesn't, it doesn't fit the theory, you're right, there is an additional element.
No, it completely doesn't fit the theory. Because the theory, the main purpose was that convex agendas protect us.
But in the theory, this is true we know what the alternatives are. Yeah, we know.
Mm-hmm.
A is big, this is big bridge, small bridge, little bridge.
Yeah.
Here, we don't know what it means, the rejection of C.
Okay, so as I said, this is also the purpose of election, of voting in the parliament is also to influence the public in general. In a way, they wanted, maybe one of the reasons that they've done that was only to reflect to the public that there is no confidence in the government. That's even without any other implication, that's a good enough result for them.
Just for demonstrative purpose.
It's just for demonstrative, and later on, the next election kind of.
Sure. It's possible. But there are no tangible profits, it's just something to show. It's possible. But again, the main point was the ambiguity. One of my colleagues at university, the professor of law, was a Supreme Court judge before, but not for life. He was a Supreme Court judge and then he was a professor or lawyer or whatever. He was responsible for constitutional law, parliament constitutional law, and I asked him also this, to understand what happened there. It was not only the work of an economist, two economists, also the work of the, in some sense, law professors who explained this. What was real this ambiguity which meant that even with a convex agenda, introducing killer amendment may sometimes work. May.
And they operated the Supreme Court in order to say that in this case the government should be.
They didn't. They did another trick. They responded, so the Nazis understood this. And that's why they proposed the killer amendment. The Social Democrats, you immediately tell us what they did. They responded with another trick. So there was a whole strategic move behind this one.
So we can sum the difference here from our theory that we assume that the defeat of one option does not affect the feasibility of other options. But in this case it does. So actually in a similar case, the defeat of confidence was seen as the equivalent to a vote of non-confidence. This was historical. So what happened? You're probably eager to know. Again, summing up the difference. The coalition had to do something in order to save toleration, and the Russian president, he proposed a different agenda. Okay, so we proposed to vote this way. First for toleration, confidence, and non-confidence. Is this convex?
No.
Is it?
No.
Not convex, right? So still may be vulnerable to killer amendments. And then they took a vote for the agenda, so instead of voting first for the outcomes, they voted for the agenda, how to proceed.
So you have to understand the president of the parliament broke precedent, which says you should choose the convex agenda, because they understood the convex agenda with this ambiguity in the law maybe killed the government, broke the precedent, and proposed the non-convex agenda, which since it's a break of precedence, they couldn't impose it, so they had to take a vote. Yeah?
But your paper was not outed, so they couldn't know that convex agendas are.
They understood, obviously they understood. So they said, come on, what are you doing? You're changing the law. Changing the procedure. It's not a law, it's procedural rule. So I said, okay, but then we have to vote. It's like legislating a new law that in this case you're allowed to use a non-convex. So that's what, so we had a vote on the agendas, then one agenda was chosen, then
Okay, so good news. The toleration, okay, they voted for the convex agenda. Okay, it was chosen, agenda B, and the toleration motion was approved. So this is the end. And
Why couldn't they, if you said that extreme cases are always from left to right, they could have put NC first, and then by automatic toleration would be the next.
this one, A1.
For some reason, I agree that NC must be last. Yeah. So both of them, you see, the doses were put to both ends. NC. It's true, but they all agreed
That
NC would be the last. Yeah. This was this can be the protocol. Everyone agreed.
That's it. Questions? One. Thank you.
Excellent. So you see what is so when I asked my colleague from the law department, of course once explained everything is very intuitive and you can see the moves and the counter moves and this agenda and what on the